The Tortoise and the Hare, the Great Race. Chapter 1. The Boastful Hare. In a beautiful, peaceful meadow, there lived a very fast hare named Hare. He loved to run and was known far and wide for his incredible speed. Hare would race through the woods, past the animals, and always leave them behind. One day, after racing past a group of animals, Hare stopped and laughed. "I am the fastest creature in the whole forest," he declared, puffing out his chest. "No one can beat me." The animals, who had grown tired of Hare's boasting, looked at each other and sighed. They were all tired of hearing about how fast Hare was, but no one dared to challenge him. Until one day, a voice interrupted Hare's bragging. Chapter 2. The Challenge. "Hare, I challenge you to a race," said a quiet voice. The animals looked around and saw that it was the tortoise, Timmy. He was known for being slow and steady, and everyone knew that he was not a match for Hare's speed. Hare burst into laughter. "You? Race me? That's the funniest thing I've ever heard," he chuckled. "You are so slow, Timmy. There's no way you can win." But Timmy, with a calm smile, replied, "I may be slow, but I'm determined. I believe I can finish the race, and that's all that matters." The animals around them began to murmur, and soon a crowd gathered. Even the wise old owl agreed that the race should take place. Chapter 3. Preparing for the race. The day of the race arrived, and the animals gathered in the meadow to watch. The finish line was set up at the edge of the forest, and the race course was a winding path that went through the trees and across a stream. Hare stretched his legs and hopped up and down, eager to get started. He was so confident that he didn't even take the race seriously. Timmy, on the other hand, took his time preparing. He carefully examined the course, making sure he knew every twist and turn. He even practiced his steady pace, knowing that it was his best chance of winning. The animals cheered as the two racers lined up at the starting line. Chapter 4. The Race Begins. "On your marks, get set, go," shouted the wise owl, and the race began. Hare immediately shot off, his legs moving so fast that he created a blur of motion. Timmy, on the other hand, moved at his usual slow pace, taking one careful step after another. Hare laughed as he looked over his shoulder and saw how far ahead he was. "I'm going to finish this race before Timmy even gets halfway," he thought, feeling sure of his victory. Chapter 5. The First Nap. As Hare raced along the path, he reached a soft, grassy spot under a large tree. The sun was shining and the air was warm. "I have so much time to spare," Hare thought. "I'll just take a quick nap and still win easily." So Hare curled up under the tree, closed his eyes, and fell into a deep sleep, dreaming of how fast he was and how everyone would cheer for him at the finish line. Meanwhile, Timmy continued his slow, steady pace. He passed by the sleeping hare without making a sound. Chapter 6. Timmy's Steady Progress. While Hare napped, Timmy moved through the forest. He passed a stream, where he took a moment to drink some water. He passed through a meadow filled with colorful flowers, and he stopped to admire the beauty around him. Timmy didn't rush. He focused on each step, taking his time but never stopping. The animals along the race course cheered for Timmy as he passed. "Go! Timmy, go!" they called out, excited to see the tortoise doing so well. Timmy smiled, but he didn't get distracted by the cheering. He kept his eyes on the finish line, remembering why he had entered the race in the first place. Chapter 7. Hare wakes up. Meanwhile, Hare was still sound asleep. The sun had moved across the sky, and the shadows grew longer. After a long nap, Hare finally woke up with a big stretch and a yawn. He opened his eyes and looked around. "Oh no!" he gasped. "I've slept for too long." Hare jumped to his feet and began racing down the path, hoping to catch up to Timmy. But when he looked ahead, he saw something that shocked him. Timmy was already getting close to the finish line. Chapter 8. The Chase. Hare ran as fast as he could, but Timmy was already so far ahead. Hare pushed himself harder, jumping over rocks and weaving between trees, but it was too late. Timmy's steady pace had brought him closer and closer to the finish line. Hare thought about all the times he had been so sure of himself. He had underestimated Timmy, and now he was paying the price. Chapter 9. The Finish Line. Timmy, with his slow and steady pace, reached the finish line just as Hare was racing towards him. The animals cheered as Timmy crossed the line, and Hare arrived just moments after him. Hare gasped for breath, his heart pounding. I lost," he said, his voice filled with surprise. Timmy smiled and said, "You didn't lose because you're fast, Hare. You lost because you were overconfident and didn't take the race seriously. It's not about how fast you are, but about persistence and not giving up." Chapter 10. A Valuable Lesson. Hare stood silently for a moment, reflecting on Timmy's words. Then he nodded and said, "You're right, Timmy. I was too proud of my speed and didn't think about the race the way I should have. You taught me a very important lesson." From that day on, Hare no longer boasted about his speed. Instead, he focused on working hard and being more humble. He and Timmy became good friends, and they often ran together, each learning from the other's strengths. And so, the animals in the forest learned that slow and steady really does win the race. Moral of the story *, never underestimate others. And remember that persistence, patience, and hard work are often more important than speed and bragging.